We're live with Pat Daugherty from Rotoworld. This is RotoPat. He doesn't do that many podcasts. He has a strict schedule at Rotoworld. They've got him grinding. He doesn't have a lot of time to come on with other people. It took me months to get this thing booked. We had to reschedule. This is a very busy man. Football season is ahead of us, but he is here with us today. It is my great pleasure to talk to my man, Pat Daugherty from Rotoworld. Let's do this, buddy.
Let's do it. I'm busy. I'm never too busy for a podcast. The problem when we scheduled this podcast, though, was you have to remember, at heart, I'm a writer, and at heart, you're an entrepreneur, which means like you can actually plan. You have like a grand grid in your mind where you can actually schedule something 2 months out. Where scheduling something with a writer 2 months out, like you might as well be scheduling something like an unborn baby. Like there's no way a writer will ever remember a commitment 2 months from the date. And it was just very hopelessly naive on both of our parts that I would remember a podcast date 2 months into the future.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I have a bit of a split brain in that I have an artist side of the brain, but then I also have the manager organizer side.
You've got Pablo Picasso on one side, Daniel Plainview on the other side.
Daniel Plainview.
I was trying to think of the most
Oh
extreme.
My God, there will be blood. Daniel. Wow. What a great name, by the way. I mean, just an incredible, that was Daniel Plainview. I was like that. Just sometimes names you feel like, oh, man, I think I could have come up with something better for that character. You can't come up with anything better than Daniel Plainview.
No, you truly cannot. They don't make them like that anymore. Plainview or There Will Be Blood.
No, I mean, I was listening to a podcast with Quentin Tarantino, and he said that he gave the director of the movie the greatest
PTA.
compliment. Say again?
PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson. He gave him the greatest compliment. He said, hey, I just want to tell you it was a masterpiece, and I was particularly impressed with the fact that you were able to do this movie without a set piece. And when he and Paul Thomas Anderson are talking to each other, they have like a shorthand where they refer to things like they go way back, because actually I think after Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson kept being referred to as the next Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
And he got tired of it. And he noticed he was doing a lot of press, and this kept coming up, and then he kept trying to deflect, and there's a lot of pressure. So he said, you know what? I'm going to call Quentin. And he's like, he called him, and he's like, this is Paul Thomas Anderson. He's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah, you're great. And he's like, oh, you're great. And he's like, I know that it's going to come up. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to frame my answers every time. So I want to make sure we're friends in case there's some response that doesn't come off exactly right when I'm trying to talk about you and I in the director's sphere. And I don't want it to be awkward. So I'm going to get out ahead of it. And I was like, that is brilliant. What a brilliant idea. You know in advance you're destined to say something that could be misconstrued. And if the world is going to keep pushing you two people together, you might as well just pick up the phone, man. And then they decided to watch some movies together. I think they went to Quentin's house and started watching movies together. Of course, that's what you do when you go to Quentin Tarantino's house. You watch movies. Yes. That's his favorite activity. So they come up with a shorthand, and like, oh, a set piece is a big, like expensive, action sequence in a movie, right? Where there's, a lot happens. And it's hard to, a lot happens. Usually there's pyrotechnics. Usually there's stuntmen involved. So if you have the pyrotechnics and you have the stuntmen that are showing up on that day to the set, that's probably a set piece that you're doing. Okay? So he watches the movie. Quentin watches the movie, says, hey, I noticed it was so brilliant because you did it without a set piece, and that's like batting left-handed. Right? If you're a righty, that's like getting a hit left-handed because as a director, you always know you can get a wow from the audience. You can get an emotional response with some big event that happens. And so he said that, and he goes, well, actually, you might want to go rewatch the movie, Quentin.
I was thinking the same thing.
So Paul Thomas Anderson's like, this is a little awkward for me because you're Quentin Tarantino, and when you watch movies, like, you're a savant about watching movies. It's literally how you get into the business. Is like you were a video store clerk, and you were like the greatest video store clerk ever in Los Angeles, and famous people would come to your store to get movies because of your recommendations, because of your attention to detail. And I hate to break it to you, but one of the great set pieces of the decade, when we blew up an oil derrick,
yes,
was the centerpiece of the entire movie. You don't remember? And he's like, I was so wrapped up in the emotion and the personal relationships in the story arc that he sort of missed that there was a giant set piece in the middle of the movie.
A giant oil explosion, hot oil blasting everywhere.
Yeah, and it created a turn in the relationship of the characters. The father and the son were no longer the same after that. I mean, it was just
poor child.
It was crazy. I think top 10 movie?
Well, the thing is, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men are forever entangled. And I still fall on the side of No Country was the true 2007 masterpiece. But There Will Be Blood is easily a top 10 21st century movie. Like, they're kind of like the two Goliaths of 21st century American big time cinema, I should say. It's not that it's mainstream Hollywood cinema, but it's not small indie cinema. Mm-hmm. And, they're the two Goliaths, I would say, of like big time American 21st century cinema.
Were they shooting at the same time in the same location too?
They were shooting very close to each other in Texas. Yes, Marfa, Texas was. I know where they filmed There Will Be Blood, and I know a lot of No Country was shot in West Texas.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. They would like, hey, listen, all the hotel rooms are rented by this other movie that's in town.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Right. And they're like, and then they're like, who's in town? Like, oh, the Coen brothers. The Coen brothers are doing a West Texas movie? God damn it.
I know. Yeah. Of all places. Yep.
Right.
West Texas is not very densely populated except for with auteur American filmmakers.
That's right. But I think you're wrong. I think that There Will Be Blood is a better movie, and I'll tell you why. Anytime you have a key element in a movie that doesn't ring true, I have to discount that movie. I didn't find that at all.
You don't think the supernatural psychopathic killer rings true?
No, the coin. The coin I thought was lame for that character to do a coin thing, to do a flip of the coin thing. I just thought that there's no way. Like, I'm with you. I'm here that there is a supernatural predator.
He's a supernatural force.
An evil that we've never seen on planet Earth. And he's arrived in this little town in West Texas. I'm with you. I'm here. You've got my suspension of disbelief. But the coin thing, I was like, this is a little lame for him to be doing a coin thing. And the coin was so small in his hand, and I get maybe that was kind of one of the
part of it. Yeah.
Cute things about it. But I didn't like the coin. I'll just tell you, I liked every other part of the movie. The whole movie's it's a great movie. I didn't care for the coin, and if you don't care for an element like that, it's going to affect how you remember the movie and how you rank it.
Very fine coin. I liked it.
But you're still No Country over.
Still No Country, and it was started. I was a There Will Be Blood guy, but then I came over to I was wooed and converted by the No Country side at one point. I never looked back.
Drainage. Right.
I used to do so many Drainage. I've retired my Plainview voice, but I've done so many Plainview voices in my life.
I mean, I think Drainage is.
That is right. Probably the.
Drainage was. Yeah. I mean, because I was like, what is he talking about? What is that concept? That's an interesting concept. It makes sense underneath. Like all there's a lot of connection points for all these pools of petroleum, and that you would be able to siphon it from one plot of land over to the other. It kind of makes perfect sense.
Does it
think about it?
Is it true in real life? I guess it is.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure, because think about it. Like the underground aquifers don't adhere to property lines.
No.
Doesn't make any sense. And if that's true for aquifers, then that would necessarily be true for the pockets of oil, I would think. It made intuitive sense to me. But then I was like, well, what would you call that? What would be the term for that? What's that? What is that? And then he let me know. He did
let us know.
Possible.
I think it might be seepage in real life. Drainage is way better in the film, though.
Drainage, the way he did drainage. And that he puts so much into these movies that he has to take a year off and become a cobbler before.
Not a half decade off.
Like, right, but that's he's like, I put so much into these movies that I have to become. And then so I was thinking, sometimes like, these basketball players, they finish the season, then they got to go do the Olympics.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right. It's just, and I see these soccer players. They got to do friendlies like a month after the season's over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think some of these guys are putting like Daniel Day-Lewis level effort into the season. Not all. We all know some soccer players and basketball players are not doing that. Some are. So I would think that they would just want a little extra time off, but no. That's why, man, athletes, they deserve our respect, man.
More athletes need to become cobblers after the season too.
I just think that's so, like, he's like, I'm so emotionally spent. Right? I'm just so emotionally spent, the method acting. And it's like, hey, when you talk to him, he talks to you as if he's Daniel Plainview off camera. Like when he's getting food, right? When he's eating a salad next to like a refrigerator, he's Daniel Plainview. It's pretty fun. That's a pretty fun thing. I would get a kick out of it. But I think that the thing is, it's like, he has the mannerisms, but he still talks to you like a normal person. He doesn't have the Daniel Plainview attitude. He just has he has the affect, right, and the mannerisms and the body movements of Plainview. But he's Daniel Day-Lewis in conversation next to the refrigerator.
He's a person.
That's something. You know what? That's something I would love to experience. Like, you and I are going to go our whole lives and never be able to talk to an actor off camera in method mode.
No. I never say never. No. We're going to have a second career. You're going to be a Hollywood financier. I'll somehow have a friend. I'll get cast in a bit part. And then Jeremy Strong will be in method, and I'll have an encounter with him. Very awkward encounter around like the bagel toaster.
But who's even left doing the method acting? It's like Christian
Jeremy
Bale.
Strong. Jeremy Strong, the guy from Succession.
Okay, Jeremy Strong
played Roy Cohn in the Trump movie. He's gone method for a few guys I know. He went method for Succession apparently, and it apparently irritated some people on the set.
You think?
Yeah.
Again, I think I would get a kick out of it for like one day, and I would find it incredibly entertaining. I would love it. But you're at Rotoworld. You're on TV, NBC, right? It's pretty cool. So what have you been cooking over there at Rotoworld? What do you guys got going on?
Same standard summer stuff. We have our team preview series, smack dab in the middle of it. I just finished writing our Colts one yesterday. So an article on all 32 teams posted daily. The Rotoworld football show, of course, rolling along right now. We're doing some division previews.
Okay.
The GM rankings are the evergreen article that's been up this month. Check that out if you've not already done so.
The third question on the show sheet is about the Colts. Did you see that?
I did see that. I did.
Yeah. Before we get there, let's just start with some. I like to start with some candy for the audience. Like, we're going to the movies, and I want to give you hot tamales. I want to give you Sour Patch Kids. Okay. Not Whoppers, by the way.
I've never had a Whopper. Can I admit that?
Whoppers are terrible. Whoppers, it's like you're like, oh my God, this is so good. This chocolate's so good. And then you get to the inside and it's this hard, tasteless, dry, I don't know what it is.
Whoppers have horrible aesthetics. I've never liked the box, so therefore
Ugh.
I've never tried the candy.
I don't know what is that inside. Is it like rice cake? I don't know what it is. It's horrible.
Sounds even worse than I could.
It's like a dried out rice cake that you can barely eat. It's disgusting. And so whenever people say, hey, Whoppers, I'm like, really? Like there's other delivery mechanisms for chocolate that don't have that absolute, chore of a center. And then there are other candies where you have to getting through the center is the difficult part, but then what's in the middle is so good.
Gobstopper.
Right? So then that's sort of reverse. So the Whopper's the reverse of that. Why are we listen, man, I just want to explain something to you and the audience. Whenever we talk, there are more non sequiturs and sidebars, and I don't know why. There's something about RotoPat that makes me just want to chit chat.
I'm a digression king, so on air or off air, I love to digress. So,
but I feel like I know that there's something that makes me want to go there with you.
Well, I have similar interests. Very, we have pretty good middle-aged man interests. You could have horrible interests at this age, but we like military history, American history. We like Quentin Tarantino podcasts. So I'd say we've got very premium middle-aged man tastes.
Drainage! Right, that's the last one. I promise everybody. Last one. Okay, here's the candy. You're picking late in the first round. There's a lot of choices. There probably have not been this many great late first round picks in my lifetime. It's typically been easy to scratch someone off. But what happens is, end of the first round, Puka falls. Wait, maybe I should draft Puka in the first round. Man, I didn't like Puka at the 107, but I really like Puka at the 111. But what about Brian Thomas? He's the best player available. Oh, what about Ashton Genty? Like, there's just I don't want to let Christian McCaffrey make it to the second round. Dude, think about your options there. It's unbelievable. What are you doing in the back half of the first round in fantasy?
There's usually like one or two guys at the end of the first round who are just clearly not a first rounder. It's like, well, I don't know. We don't have any other better options though. We don't know who to really force into here. So I agree. Most years there's usually one or two guys where like everyone knows they're not a first rounder, but yet they have to be treated because someone has to be a first rounder. So they're the ones who get default treated as a first rounder. And this year that guy does not exist. When I was looking at the board, one guy stood out to me. It's for very galaxy-brained reasons. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I feel like some people will probably be out on. He's recovering from the surgery. Ben Johnson is gone. But I'm betting on the Ben Johnson hangover effect, like really helping Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because, they're going to try to keep running the Ben Johnson offense, like some facsimile of it. But it's not going to be as good. And they're going to try to, like, do like a photocopy of the Ben Johnson offense, but it's just not possible to do. So I feel like they're going to quadruple down on like two or three elements and then lose a bunch of elements, but like make the offense special, like what it really was. But one thing I feel like they're going to quadruple down on is just target ARSB every other play. And I think he could be in for like an all-time, like single season targets record type of season. And I don't care if it's like 9.7 yards per catch. I just think we're going to get, in the Lions' attempt to like photocopy the Ben Johnson offense, we're going to get an historic amount of ARSB targets.
Yeah,
I love
he gets
like
a little bit lost in the shuffle.
Type of season. Yeah, he has.
A little bit lost in the shuffle there with Nico Collins. I mentioned Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas. A little bit lost. But the thing is, Amon-Ra St. Brown has explosiveness. That's the one thing that we always have to remember. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an explosive guy. Right? We go look him on PlayerProfiler.com. Look at this, 84th percentile burst score. Okay, And what was he last year? Oh, he was only the wide receiver 3 in fantasy. He was the wide receiver 3 in fantasy last year. And last year felt like a disappointment. Look at this. Points per game, 18.6. Points per game the year before, 20.7. So you're thinking more, he's going to have a 2023 season.
I think he's getting back to the 160 targets, maybe honestly even 170 targets for Amon-Ra St. Brown this year.
It's such a safe pick. It is so safe. He's safer than Puka. He doesn't have Devontae Adams level target competition. And the beauty is with Amon-Ra, he's got a pocket passer. All the dropbacks are going to be pass attempts.
They are. I love ARSB. Some people want to avoid it because it's so safe. And I mean, I actually respect people who don't want to play like safety fantasy and want to like think bigger, try to always maximize their upside with every single pick. But Amon-Ra is like these, and by extension, maybe the highest upside pick you could get there.
What about Christian McCaffrey there, though?
Well, you got a question about who's on our do not draft list, and CMC is the classic. I will be ageist till the end. Like, what if he wants to keep being good for one more year? That's fine with me. But I'm out 1 year too early on CMC, like for the second or third year in a row now. Actually, only the second year in a row. I'm out. CMC's on the do not draft list. Not even considering it.
So you take Genty over CMC?
Yeah, I have a bad case of shiny new toy syndrome, though, all the time. Like, I'm one of those guys. Like, yeah, hell yes. I mean, sight unseen, a guy who's never played in the NFL, I'll take that.
Derrick Henry?
I would still take Derrick Henry. You want to talk about a supernatural force? He's like the Anton Chigurh of the NFL, Derrick Henry. There's something beyond human understanding with Derrick Henry and his production. So
yes,
I accept that there's something beyond human understanding with Derrick.
As long as he's not flipping a coin at the 1 yard line, I'm cool with that.
He keeps winning his coin tosses.
Yeah, he keeps winning. Yeah, winning in quotes.
Yeah,
murdering.
True. Yeah,
murdering
the
NFL.
double-barreled CMC Achilles last year, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tricky. The lower body injuries, they're more likely to recur than the upper body injuries. So CMC more injury prone than Kenneth Walker, for example. And Kenneth Walker much later, 3 rounds later. Now, what about Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan Taylor over CMC? Jonathan Taylor had the ankle injury until he didn't last year.
Taylor is another guy where I hate to say it, but I think I'm putting him on my do not draft list. And I'm not truly like never. I don't have an actual do not draft list.
You don't?
I mean, I kind of do. Actually,
by the way, if you do, you need to be careful because I had Kyron Williams and James Cook on my do not draft list last year, and many buzzards on Twitter X screenshotted it. And then when I said that Anthony Richardson's going to have an incredibly productive career in the CFL, that was the reply. It was a screenshot of my do not draft list, as if anyone thinks that Anthony Richardson is good at this point. But no, it's just here's an excuse to cold take you. Thank you. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm doubling down. Guess who's right back on my do not draft list this year? James Cook and Kyron Williams.
I will say I don't have a do not draft list. I literally never once drafted Kyron Williams last year. So he was on my do not draft list. Taylor, it's just, listen, maybe it's bad luck. Running back is a quote-unquote injury-prone position. It's been half a decade. He's appeared in every game one time. He's missed at least 3 games each of the past 3 years. Twice it was at least 6 games. I just think the guy's living on borrowed time. That coupled with what a dysfunctional team and offense it is. I mean, can you think of a more dysfunctional team right now? Like Anthony Richardson is a bust, yes. Then your backup plan is the guy who literally ruined the New York Giants franchise. This is actually the backup plan. You have a new owner. I think she's going to want to put her stamp on things. I think very quickly this Colts season, by like early to mid-October, there's going to be a sense, yeah, this is about 2026. Like this, none of this matters. The season does, none of this matters. The season does not matter. And I want to avoid Jonathan Taylor in that context.
In the chat, some people are saying that Terror Blaze 6 feel like I'm on an island by easily choosing Henry over CMC. And we have Derrick Henry up on the screen. His best comparable, and this has been the case for many years, is Zangief from Street Fighter. Because he looks like Zangief from Street Fighter. He's got that same build. We could change that to Anton Segura. We could.
You actually should.
We might have to, or just make his headshot Antoine Segura. I mean, I think that'd be funny.
He's the
but then it's like, then his comp is a cartoon, and then he himself is a character from a movie. It's a little much, but we could change it. We could definitely change his comp. Like man. The thing is, he was a lightly used monster truck. Because I like to say, Player X was a lightly used race car, like Aaron Jones, the first part of his career, lightly used race car.
Yes.
Derrick Henry, lightly used monster truck for many years. Like, he wasn't really putting up these 300 carry seasons until age 25. No. They didn't use him up in Tennessee.
They did not.
So it's a good pick. It's a good pick. I think and he has big booming upside. That's the thing. Like, well, I like spike weeks, and therefore I need running backs that catch passes. Well, see, Derrick Henry, because he's a supernatural force, he gives you these spike weeks with 200-yard games and 3 touchdowns.
Yes. Henry's this. Why do we always talk ourselves out of Henry, and we always talk ourselves into CMC? I guess I obviously understand why we talk ourselves into CMC, but they're treated very differently, despite one of them being as reliable as any player in like modern fantasy history, and the other not being that at all.
I am talking myself into Christian McCaffrey this year for a lot of the same reasons I'm talking myself into Cooper Kupp, because I've seen things, man. I've seen a 30-point per game season from Christian McCaffrey. I've seen a 25 fantasy points per game season from Cooper Kupp. And I've seen plenty of players at their ages, at their positions, be hyperproductive. Cooper Kupp is 31. That's not that old for a wide receiver. Plenty of 31-year-old wide receivers that put up big numbers. Plenty of 29-year-old running backs that put up big numbers.
Kupp's done, by the way.
You think so? So Kupp is on your do not draft list as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily go against all the old guys, as evidenced by the fact that I'm a Derrick Henry supporter and Anton Segura supporter. But Kupp, I mean, like how many different times does he need to tell us that he's done? Basically, like just give him one more year of 8 or 9 games and one more year of his efficiency being like not even half of what it was during his record-setting season. And just like
that foot and ankle is just that whole ligament tree that goes down his leg. That's all just cooked.
Ligament tree. Yes. Yeah. I feel like you can't get that back.
Right. It's almost like it's been overboiled. And now it's just this limp. It has nothing. Like it's just been.
It's now a cabbage.
It's like a cabbage. Like he has a cabbage foot.
Wow. That's kind of grim.
Isn't that? But that's what you're saying. In order for this to be true, because if it's not, if he does have any fibers, right? Any fast twitch, anything left in that leg, then you need to bet on him at his ADP. But you're saying no. You're saying he can't. It's not possible.
I will say this about wide receiver. Man, the ADP wide receiver 51. That is. I would take Cooper Kupp Flyers to wide receiver 51, I must say. Have you noticed
this?
Excuse me, my nose has been itching. There are no good wide receiver ADPs this year. Like not a single good wide receiver ADP beyond like the top 6 or 7. Every wide receiver ADP is horrible this year. Like no one feels good at their ADP. We got so used to receiver being so deep. And like, there's no real difference between the wide receiver 18 and wide receiver 34 this year. Like, there's just so many guys getting targets. Almost every team is 3 deep at wide out. Everyone's throwing the ball so much. There was like, it was like a housing bubble almost. like an inexhaustible supply of like new houses and new mortgages. Like there was always more money in the banana stand type of deal.
Right,
And
sure.
that is just no longer the case at wide receiver. Where the ADPs just all feel horrible to me. Like any ADP, any random ADP beyond like wide receiver 6 or 7, I'm like, yep, that's horrible. It feels horrible. Never doing that. Never doing that. It's not a good year for it. It's going to be a good year for receiver, but we just don't know. I feel like we have less idea than ever of how things are going to actually shake out at receiver. It's like a time of transformation and transition at receiver.
You've got to dip into some of these receivers that we haven't drafted historically. Like I've got one for you. I've got a guy that led the league in air yards last year, had a big quarterback upgrade, and has no target competition.
Drake London?
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, he's terrible.
See? I know.
Calvin Ridley's another guy. Like his last good season was, I mean, literally the last decade. Maybe it was 2020.
Do you realize how much grief I've taken over the years fading him every year? I mean, I have taken a lot. There's been a lot of people angry. Because the thing is, it's like they will screenshot that one game that he has. But no one goes back. No one's gone back. Like, they're happy to throw my do not draft list from last year in my face. But all these guys I've been right about for so many years, no one ever goes back and is like, by the way, I just want to say I'm sorry for giving you hell about Calvin Ridley all those years.
I'll say on Ridley, too, it is very easy for me to forget that he's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And I'm a Cam Ward believer, so I don't think that's outlandish. I don't think it's outlandish, I'll say, on Calvin Ridley.
I think that he and Cam Ward are going to get along very well. I love Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is an exceptional talent. In fact, if I were drafting an Origins, Fast Draft has an all-rookie game. And I would probably, in order to increase my exposure of Cam Ward, I might pivot off of Ashton Genty for a couple picks. Make sure you get at least 5% Genty in that tournament. But I would want to get a little extra Cam Ward somehow, some way. And I don't think, just taking the Cam Ward that happens to fall to the 103, it happens so rarely because he's so locked in as the 102 in that tournament that it's an all-rookie tournament. It's 6 rounds. You draft 6 rookies. The top 4 enter your lineup every week. And I think Cam Ward, he works so hard. And to have a guy that's the 101 with that kind of humble, can-do attitude, it's just so rare at the 101. Typically, it's a guy who is been part of the quarterback-making machine. He's been to all the camps, and he was anointed years ago. And he's just one of the anointees that made it through, like Trevor Lawrence, right? Anointed and made it to the 101, and then, no surprise, has not really delivered on that promise in the NFL. Where Cam Ward, he was not recruited. He had to go to a super small school, and he had to prove himself. Then he had to transfer and prove himself again. It's all just been proving himself. And then to watch he and Shedeur Sanders practicing, and to see him embarrassing Shedeur Sanders, because Shedeur Sanders is clearly not focused on being the best football player. He's clearly focused on other things, like his social media profile.
He wants his own mind of mansion empire.
Yeah. And Cam Ward has one thought: how do I get better at football? And when you have that base of ability, the size, the athleticism, the giant arm, that is what, and then also the willingness to just soak in all the information to get better at information processing. As the season goes along, he's going to get better and better. They're going to have to be playing from behind. They're going to have to just say, hey, I think what's going to eventually happen is they're going to try to protect him at first. And then by the time October rolls around, they're going to realize that, no, he's protecting himself out there. He's releasing the ball on time. We can just call pass plays and let Cam do his thing. And I think, and maybe give him more control in the huddle at some point in the season to call his own plays. I mean, I could see a lot of things going his way where he actually scores more total fantasy points this year than Ashton Genty.
what I'll say on Cam Ward too is everything you said is true about like his work ethic and his journey, and to pair that with like an undying devotion to doing cool shit, because he's not like a robot on the like where he's a really amazing set of skills in that he is that kind of worker and like football junkie, and he's also like but he's also got like a bit of the Caleb Williams. Well, I'm gonna go do something really cool, and hopefully he actually does do something really cool.
Do you think Caleb Williams is going to have his sort of breakout this year and maybe take Rome Odunze along with him?
It's a great leading indicator that for Caleb Williams that despite how disappointing and shaky his rookie season was, like the choosiest head coaching candidate since Josh McDaniels, decided he didn't want to coach Jaden Daniels last year. But the thing that got Ben Johnson out of Detroit was Caleb Williams. I feel like that's a good sign. It could mean nothing, of course.
It's an interdivision team, right?
Yes.
So they get to play him twice, and then he saw enough, and he's like, I think I want to coach this kid.
So that was very interesting to me. And I will say with Caleb last year, Caleb was another guy I was like, how committed to football is he really? Like, hasn't experienced like a ton of football career adversity, although he did experience some adversity near the end at USC. The adversity being that they were bad. I cannot believe.
Well, I think by definition, you have to have experienced adversity if there's video of you crying in your mother's arms in the stands.
So yeah, he did cry. But anyways, Caleb Williams' toughness was like truly like off the charts to me last year. Like, so I did like that. Or like, it would have been like, if this guy wasn't tough, like if this guy actually was some of the pre-draft question marks, like at some point last year, he wouldn't have quit, but he would have like missed 2 or 3 games, like with a minor injury or something. So we had those pre-draft questions about Caleb Williams. The fact that I don't know if he ever even missed a snap last year, and like amidst how many hits he took, how many firings they endured, I couldn't. How tough Caleb Williams was as a rookie, I feel like went really overlooked.
Yeah, he came through the crucible and came out on the other side, man. And I respect the hell out of him. That's why I'm fine drafting Rome Odunze where he's going. Early 5th round. Sometimes in best ball, 4 or 5 turn, that feels very pricey. But I think in managed leagues, this is where the problem is people want to stack with Caleb Williams this year. They feel like that's a way to get value. That's one of those value stacks that people are chasing, and that's something we're going to talk about today a lot, our value stacks, especially in best ball. And that pushes up Rome Odunze's ADP, plus the upside that he was in that Malik Neighbors tier of prospects coming out. And I can promise you he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. That we are going to look back in 5 years and everyone's going to know that it's Neighbors and it's Odunze, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. is in another tier below, likely below McConkey. So the idea that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a top 3 receiver from this class, I think even after just 1 year, that is gone. I think that's over. I know that Harrison goes before Odunze in drafts, but I don't think anyone actually thinks he's a better talent. I just think that they know that DJ Moore is there, and they're not sure about the offense. So it's interesting that a guy with such a pedigree, who was the top 5 pick, first wide receiver off the board, it looks like there's no chance he's going to be a top 3 receiver from this class 5 years from now.
On Odunze, I'll just say I'll go narrative based. I go narrative based a lot. Statistically based, of course, not efficient at all as a rookie. Like a truly heinous, like yards per route run. But could have just been the offensive environment, of course. I don't love for Rome Odunze. Now, Ben Johnson, another similarity to Josh McDaniels, is he is very obsessed with his guys. He clearly thinks he knows better than everyone. I don't love that he came in and like the first 2 picks they make are skill guys, and Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. And do you do that if you truly love Rome Odunze and DJ Moore? It seems more like he doesn't love DJ Moore. So maybe it has nothing to do with Rome Odunze. But I don't love that the first thing Ben Johnson did was come out like basically like punch guys in the mouth. We're going to get my actual guys in here that I like. And I do fear that maybe he just doesn't have a lot of faith in Rome Odunze, but second-year top 10 pick. Not even Ben Johnson has the power to ignore that kind of draft pedigree. And maybe it's all noise. Maybe it's something I shouldn't be paying any attention to. But when you didn't love the rookie year, and then you have a coach coming in and explicitly like getting other guys to funnel targets to, not a great indicator, I would say, for Rome Odunze. But the ADP is very reasonable. I think it's like wide receiver 30.
So the instinct that these front office people have, Ryan Poles is the quintessential mid-level GM.
He is.
He's not special, but he's not horrible. He makes it like that. He's made some.
And he has big ideas. I like the one thing I will say for Ryan Poles, that if he's going to fail, he's not going to be a by-the-books failure, is what I'll say about Ryan Poles. He refuses to be a by-the-books failure. He wants to be a spectacular failure. If he fails, he wants it to be in spectacular fashion.
Even if it was Carolina that made the phone call and proposed the deal and he just said yes, he did that deal.
He did. Yes.
He did the deal where he sidestepped Bryce Young, okay, got DJ Moore and a bunch of other first-round picks, and then ended up with Caleb Williams. And it was just, I mean, that trade alone set up the franchise for success. It's just that this instinct to support your quarterback, to support your franchise quarterback with more weapons is not the instinct that they need to be having. The number one instinct, if you have a franchise quarterback, is to draft more offensive linemen. Do you think you have enough offensive linemen? You don't. You know, bring in Joe Thuney, great move, right? Bring in Jonah Jackson, great move, right? I get it. In free agency, I get it, but it's just not enough. I want your goal as a GM should be to have a second string offensive line that you can go to war with. You got to look at your second string offensive line and go, could I run an offense with this offensive line? If the answer is yes, you've done a good job. If the answer is no, then you got to knock it off drafting redundant tight ends or move tight ends, whatever you want to call it, in the first round, or drafting Luther Burden, who you're not going to need in the first round. You have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze.
I know.
You don't need what this is a slot receiver you're trying to draft in the second round? I mean, no. Early second or in the slot as much as you are Burden, right? I know Burden did well in the slot in the Big 12, but he's a Big 12 receiver with a questionable final season in college. When there's offensive linemen available, and I can promise you there are offensive linemen available, quality offensive linemen available at the 207, that's the right move. It's not Luther Burden. You can't do both, right? If you went pass catcher in the first round, you can't go back to pass catcher in the second round, or vice versa. You can't do it.
It was highly questionable. Highly questionable.
Big mistake. But I think Loveland was a particularly big mistake in that we're going to be going back. It's not just that it was the wrong position, because Cole Kmet is good enough. And
Cole Kmet is good enough. He really is. Yes.
He really is good enough, but he's also a two-way tight end, and those guys actually aren't that easy to find.
No, and they paid him. They acknowledged that when they paid him.
Of course, you can't just go into free agency and get a guy like Cole Kmet to be that type of run blocker, have that kind of size, that kind of athleticism, and that ability in the red zone. It's just not that easy to find. And so you have a bird in the hand. There's no reason to go back shopping for that particular position in the first round. That said, if you did need a tight end, the thing is, this will doom GMs from now until the end of time, is that they feel like they are setting up a chessboard when they're drafting. And they're like, oh, to start the game, I need to make sure I have my knight. I don't have a knight on that square yet to start the game. In order to start the game, I need every single square set up correctly. And we are technically missing a move tight end. And so I need to make sure I fill that particular square. Instead of just adding a tackle, even if you don't technically need a tackle. Oh, we just added a tackle in free agency. We don't need a tackle. No. You're going to need a tackle. Trust me, you're going to need a tackle. because you're going
You
to
know
lose
what I
a
mean?
tackle because someone's going to overpay him. There's also, you could trade a tackle like Laramie Tunsil netted, I think, 3 first-round picks
He did.
at one point.
It was at
So
least 2.
it's
As the Dolphins, so it doesn't really count, but yeah.
It's an incredible investment either way. And then it becomes even worse when it's like, well, okay, we are going to go tight end. We're committed to this 12 personnel. Okay. And we need to set up our chessboard. So we're going, at least if you're going to do that, get the guy that is the maximal difference maker. Don't take Loveland. Take Tyler Warren, the guy that's clearly obvious, a no-brainer elite player. Not a guy that scouts are projecting. Oh.
You got to do the line thing because you see that it literally ruins careers with either marginal or just like replacement or normal level talents. And even with special talents like Joe Burrow, you see what it does to their career when you don't take the line seriously. And I agree. If you think you have enough offensive linemen, it probably means you still have too few.
That's right.
I agree more.
That's right. And you see it would. Wait, so let me get this straight. So the tight end you drafted at 400 yards receiving and the tight end that you let someone else draft a round later in the same college football conference had 1,300 yards. It's like, no, you're someone's giving you the wrong information, bro. I know it's like a counting stat, but someone's giving you the wrong information. Okay? About your needs and about fit, or they're giving you something that's making you think Loveland's the right pick. Don't. Please, for the love of God, don't. You're already making a decision with tight end. Don't make it worse by going Loveland over Warren and taking the far inferior player.
Couldn't agree more.
In Indianapolis, we have Daniel Jones, probably. Okay. I mean, I think barring some miracle, right, where the hand of God touches Anthony Richardson and he becomes a completely different quarterback, we are looking at Daniel Jones' season in Indianapolis. And the funny thing is, and I enjoy it, people are starting to draft Daniel Jones, even in the Rabbit game. So on Fast Draft, fastdraft.app, we have a brand new tournament called the Rabbit, which is 15 rounds, draft 1 quarterback. It's 2 running back, 2 receiver, tight end, 2 flex. That's the starting lineup. And you can draft 15 guys total. Really straightforward building of rosters. But also I've seen some creativity where, the typical build is like, hey, I'm going to go drafting 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 receivers, 2 tight ends. That's the most common build. But I've noticed some people are like, well, geez, man, I really would like to get an extra receiver. How do I make that happen? 1 tight end, Bowers. When it's 15 rounds, 10 teams, there's some flexibility there. Some people are going 1 quarterback, just Josh Allen or just Bowers. So then you've got an additional running back, an additional quarterback. Maybe if you go Josh Allen, you can go an additional tight end and play that game. So there's a bunch of things you can do to inspire creativity. Whereas in other best ball tournaments, the idea that you would only have 1 tight end or 1 quarterback that's just not going to happen. There's way too many rounds for that to ever make any sense. So it's just interesting when you put something out there that's simplified. And one of the reasons it's simplified is so that it can be done faster. So that these are proper best ball drafts that are.
Some of us have 4 kids, right?
They take 20 minutes, right? There's a difference for a lot of people between 20 minutes and 50 minutes.
It's all the difference in the world in this household.
Can make a big difference. So that's why we did that, not knowing what people would do creativity, right, with their roster builds. But I knew that if you put a format out there that people play, they will find ways to innovate. That you can't think through all the ways. You have to let the world. You have to let the hive mind do its innovation, and that's what we're seeing in the Rabbit tournament now. By the way, the code FAST. Use code FAST. Code Podfather. Both of them are great. You get a $50 deposit match on Fast Draft, and I'm seeing people now drafting Daniel Jones as their second quarterback. They're doing it. They're doing it, man. They want to stack Josh Downs because the value stacking with these Colts is incredible. Because Josh Downs, I mean, think about 150 targets for Wan'Dale Robinson with Daniel Jones last year, or, extrapolated with Daniel Jones. He didn't play the full season. But now Josh Downs is in that role, and he's just a better version of Wan'Dale Robinson across the board. You got a healthy Michael Pittman. He's a value you might consider. I mean, Josh Downs' ADP is actually one of the ADPs I bet you can get behind.
It is. It's stunningly low. I mean, barely even a wide receiver 4 ADP, I believe, this summer. But I mean, Daniel Jones, it's like, what more? The good Daniel Jones season. You know how hard it is to have 700 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns as a quarterback and not finish as a QB1? That's what Daniel Jones did in 2022, the quote good Daniel Jones year, where he did like the Konami code cheat thing and still was not a QB1. This is kind of what it comes back to me with Daniel Jones. And like the guy just too, he has, in addition to having 2 of the potentially, he might have the best like middle of the field compiling duo in the entire NFL, and Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. And he's got 2 like outside deep threats that a lot of guys would like kill for, and Alec Pierce and maybe Adonai Mitchell. Maybe Adonai Mitchell's not good. But we just know that he will never take advantage of that he will quite literally never throw deep. I think
Adonai Mitchell, it's a problem for him. Daniel Jones is a problem for Adonai Mitchell, and I think
he's a problem for Pierce too.
Well,
a huge problem.
Who cares about Pierce? The clock is ticking for when is Adonai Mitchell going to replace Pierce?
Over 800 yards, like the most embarrassingly bad quarterback situation you'll ever see as a wide receiver 3 last year.
But that's the one thing Anthony Richardson could do was throw the ball deep to Alec Pierce. And I have to. I mean, I know you're playing tricks with numbers. And
I'm not playing.
I think people really. Sometimes people take offense to that. So let's set the record straight in 2022. Daniel Jones only played 16 games. He didn't play the 17th game.
No, this was by average points per game. He was the QB 13. Average points per game in 2022.
We have him, just so you know, because 3 of those quarterbacks did not qualify for a ranking in our system.
If you include those guys, he was the QB 15 or 16. I even ejected those guys. I don't try to do tricks. I'm on the level, dog. I'm on the level over here. He was the QB
18.4 fantasy points per game is good for top 10 almost every year.
He was the QB
but
today.
It's funny. It's still funny that he put up 18.4 fantasy points per game on 3,200 passing yards and a 6.8 yards per attempt. And that was his career high in yards per attempt. That's like Tua Tagovailoa. One of his worst season is Daniel Jones' best season. Just in terms of like league-wide check-down artists.
He can't pass.
Daniel Jones is in a class by himself.
Yes. There we go. Now we're cooking.
Well, I know the point you're trying to make.
Yeah. He's not good.
I know. You're doing arbitrary cutoffs with numbers to try to make a point.
Well, there was nothing arbitrary about it. He was points per game, and I even excluded. I bumped him up from QB 15 to QB 13 because I didn't include Mr. Sam Howell or Davis Webb.
No, you can't. Okay. 708 rushing yards. People have been chasing that for years.
They have, and he gets what everyone wants, and he's still not even good, is the point I was trying to make. Like, you kill for 707 with your quarterback, and he can still barely be a QB1. Because even in your world, he was barely a QB1, right? Like, barely.
Well, okay. My world. Okay.
I meant whatever stats you're looking at.
Okay, my world. All right. Here's my world. My world is Josh Downs' world. Right? So what I've said on the show.
Full agreement on this one.
Is that I haven't been advocating for full Colt stacks. That's just not. It's not a thing that I do. I like 2 players. I like Jonathan Taylor because I don't believe that he has a chronic ankle issue where his ligaments have become cabbage.
I'm gonna be thinking of cabbage ligaments all year now.
Yeah, well, it's a great visual.
It is.
And I love Josh Downs. And I don't need to play these games with a Daniel Jones at quarterback. I don't need to do it. I don't think he's going to run for 500 yards.
No.
Okay? I think at most he'll run for like 400 yards. But because they have Jonathan Taylor, it's not like he's going to run for a bunch of touchdowns. No. So what do you really think is going to happen there with Daniel Jones? So I think the upside of him, the standalone upside of him is not so the stacking isn't as nice. And also the stacking is better when you have deep threat, big play ability at your wide receiver. So you don't, it's not as beneficial for a big volume PPR receiver. Stacking's not as beneficial because you don't get points for completions as well. So the stacking juice with Daniel Jones and Josh Downs isn't quite the same. If it were me, if I had to pick my favorite value stack, oh man, I would have to say, and I think I'm just going to go back to this. I talked about this in the last show, but I haven't changed my mind. It's Bryce Young and Tet McMillan. Man. Bryce Young and Tet McMillan, that is my value stack. If I have to go late round quarterback, I'm not going to Tagovailoa. He's not going to finish the season. You just explained why Daniel Jones is not the move. And I actually think that there's a nice positive graph, like an upward sloping graph for Bryce Young. And that sometimes it takes time. We saw Jared Goff was supposed to be out of the league by now. If you just followed Jared Goff, wasn't he in St. Louis at one point? Was he in St. Louis for a year?
No, he was the first pick after they betrayed our fine town.
Okay.
He was the first pick after they betrayed our city.
He's a pure LA guy. So that makes sense. That he would never spend a day in St. Louis.
He would never, ever, ever spend a day in Missouri. No. I don't even begrudge him that.
No.
Listen, you got to be from here to understand it.
But 3 years in, it was over. 3 years in, you're like, this guy's going to be a commentator. Okay, he's going to be commentating on like surf competitions.
ESPN2.
Yeah, he's going to
be. No offense, I watch plenty of ESPN2.
Yes, but after 3 years, Jared Goff was projected to be a personality on ESPN2.
Yes.
Okay, maybe like in the morning, a show, a roundtable show.
If Orlovsky needs a day off, they're giving Goff a tryout.
Whatever. Okay. But he's one of these guys, number 1 overall pick. There was ability there that the scouts identified years earlier. We talked about this. Yes, they often disappoint, these robo quarterbacks that are made in the lab that come through the camp system, but they can figure it out and become highly operable pocket passers in the league, and that seems to be the trajectory that Bryce Young is on. And he has a little mobility too, a little Daniel Jones 300 rushing yard ability. So with those two things together and this giant upgrade that he's getting at wide receiver for the first time, I think that he's going to set records, personal records, for pretty much every stat there is. He's going to go well over 3,000 yards. He's going to crush his career completion percentage, yards per attempt. It's a straight line up for him. 5.5 yards per attempt last year, up to 6.3, and then I think it's going to climb again because, again, the weapons, particularly Tet McMillan, but also the development of Jatavian Sanders. I just think there's a lot going on there. The development of Jalen Coker. So
I just don't. Is he being graded on a curve? And to your point, I feel like it's an upset. Bryce Young even established a floor. Like it looked like he was never even going to establish an NFL floor as a rookie. So that was a genuinely notable development. Like, all right, the guy at least has a floor now. Like he's not embarrassing himself every game anymore. But I just don't know if I've still seen I don't know if can he establish a ceiling with that body? Like, let's be real. Like, can he actually establish a ceiling with his physical abilities? I just don't know. Bryce Young. But I didn't even think he'd establish a floor. And I loved him in Alabama too, because talk about a guy who had like a ceiling to his game. I approved of the Bryce Young pick. I can't even pretend I didn't. I approved of the Bryce Young pick. I feel very silly for doing that, but I approved.
If you're in this rabbit tournament, okay, your people are drafting 10 teams times 2 quarterbacks, maybe a couple 3 quarterback builds. You're talking about 22 quarterbacks deep. If you're one of the last to draft a quarterback at QB 22-ish, I like Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young, especially if you have drafted Tet McMillan. The beauty of drafting a guy like Tet McMillan is you can always pull the lever on Bryce Young and backdoor stack him at the end of the draft. It's a nice feeling. Whereas,
why don't you just do it though, Matt? Why don't you just do it with our guy Cam Ward and our guy Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley, I swear I did a mock draft in the Rabbit, and I finished with those 2 quarterbacks, Cam Ward and Bryce Young, and it went super late round. No, that's not true. Those are 2 separate mocks. The second quarterback I drafted was Bryce Young. Basically, in the 15th round, I went Cam Ward in one draft, and then in the 15th round, I went Bryce Young in the other, because I like to have a little more juice, a little more upside with my primary stack in the Rabbit when I'm mock drafting. And I think one of my stacks was Garrett Wilson with Justin Fields. And the thing about that is, because Justin Fields is so coveted, because he is the true Konami code quarterback of this football season, if you have Garrett Wilson, you're absolutely incentivized to go up around and reach a little bit to make sure you get Justin Fields. If you have Garrett Wilson, and knowing the target share, like just the percentage of pass attempts that are going to be headed in Garrett Wilson's direction, and the fact that he's a big-time playmaker, that he can do these, deliver big plays down the field, which again, if you have a long touchdown, that's where that's where you get the most upside from stacking. So I'm sick about it. If I miss out on Justin Fields, if I try to, I'm like, I think I can wait around and get Justin Fields. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, if you're drafting in fantasy football, I don't care what it is, best ball, not best ball, I don't care. FFPC, doesn't matter. You better make sure you get Justin Fields, or you'll feel sick. You'll feel sick. Won't you?
I don't know.
You don't like Justin Fields this year?
I mean, how could you not like Justin Fields this year? I will say, but I don't know. He's not the kind of guy where if I miss on him, I feel sick to my stomach.
With Garrett Wilson?
With Garrett Wilson, yes. Yes. But, I'm not.
There's no excuse. At that point in the draft, whoever you're drafting, you can wait and either draft him or the equivalent to that guy around later. Who cares? Right? Who cares?
That makes a lot of sense. That makes sense.
I missed on Ricky Pearsall. I'm getting Keon Coleman or whatever, right? I mean, clearly I want Ricky Pearsall. Maybe it's a bad example. Actually, I really don't want. It's a terrible example. Okay, I'm all about Ricky Pearsall. I'm not really trying to draft Keon Coleman. But in one of these Rabbit mocks, I did draft Keon Coleman. I mean, because you have to acknowledge that we're all fallible. And I scouted Keon Coleman, and I determined that he is weak at the catch point, that he is a sloppy route runner, but at the end of the day, he's a Buffalo Bill, and he's tethered to Josh Allen, and he's going to be out there. It doesn't much matter what you think of his ability, right? You need to take your head out of your ass and just draft him based on the situation that he's in. And I was like between Keon Coleman and someone else, and I was like, I need to humble myself, and I just need to draft this guy because I know fundamentally it's the right move, even if I don't like the player.
Agree. He was kind of cooking before the injury last year too.
That's the thing. That's the thing. It could be that the games I saw were Amon-Ra from McLaurin in a 27 first. Is that a good trade?
Repeat the trade. We kind of froze for a second there. Oh, I see. Is Amon-Ra from McLaurin in a 27? No, it's a bad trade.
14-team Superflex.
I got to keep Amon-Ra there. I have to keep Amon-Ra there, I would say.
I mean, I like the question because it's relevant because we know you love Amon-Ra.
Apparently, I love Amon-Ra. But well, too much prime left. Too much prime left.
You said that earlier. You were all about Amon-Ra. You said that earlier.
No, I know. I'm saying like I didn't know how much I loved Amon-Ra until I made the case there, is what I was saying. But yeah, too much of Amon-Ra St. Brown's prime left. For a guy who's already over 30 and a speculative, I think it's a 2027 first, not even a 2026 first.
Yeah, the 2027 first, that's the problem. If it was a 2026 first, then that would be interesting.
You can maybe at least think about it. But yeah, you can't even think about it when it's a 2027 first, I would say.
Amon-Ra is young enough where he's still just a foundational build-around wide receiver. And you're giving up the 175 target season, and that's a mistake.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why he has too much prime left to make that deal. He's only 25 years old. That's actually kind of stunning.
Very young. How are you processing this Jonnu Smith deal?
It's a pretty rare trade where can you name a winner? Like, is there a single winner in this deal? Like, is it even really going to increase Jalen Waddle's target share? I guess it does. I guess Jalen Waddle's a winner. I guess maybe Devin Achan's a winner. But it's not like they were hurting for targets before that. And it's a deal that takes a tight end one and makes him not a tight end one.
Correct.
It's very grim. And it takes like a probably a pretty decent tight end two streamer and Pat Freiermuth. It basically makes him like not even a streaming option. Like there are no winners in this deal. It's pretty depressing, actually.
Yeah, it's a weird deal, man. It's a weird deal. I think that the Dolphins are they're desperate to upgrade the back end of their secondary, and that's why they did the deal. They felt they had to get Minkah Fitzpatrick. They just felt they had to, but Pittsburgh also knows what they're giving up, and so I'm wondering: is this really going to be? I don't think this is clearly a trade between two franchises that don't know what they're doing. This is so clear that, and there's also a whiff of desperation, isn't there?
There is. Yes. There's
like for both of these teams. One has Aaron Rodgers, one has an unprotected Tua. They decided to just roll with Tua and then not protect him, which is crazy. Right? Isn't that one of the crazy that would be like buying a European sports car but not buying insurance?
Yes.
What are you doing? Yes. And I'm not saying that Tua's a European sports car, please.
No, he's not. He's one of those really grim, like Soviet era cars. He might stay on the road longer than you think, but he's not doing it in style. And,
yes, you thought he was going to break down 2 years ago, but he's still on the road.
Yeah.
That's the analogy. I like that. It's fun. Yeah, there's really not a lot to say about the Jonnu Smith. I mean, he's going to purgatory. Pittsburgh is going to be bad this year. Dolphins are going to be bad this year. It's at least with Jonnu when he was the third/fourth option with Achan, he was interesting. He was fun. Now, no more. So this does open up yet more targets in the short intermediate area for Achan. I mean, so you have Achan. I'm assuming you're drafting him because you're not drafting McCaffrey. You're not drafting Jonathan Taylor. Who you got? You got Achan or you got Derrick Henry?
I have Derrick Henry there. I love Achan. I had Achan in quite literally every league last year, but I don't know about my Dolphin friend and I constantly joke about like why do they treat Devin Achan like he's Jerome Bettis? Like what is this all about? Like kind of an exaggeration, but boy do they bang him between the tackles a lot. and bang him at the goal line a lot. And just seems like it's very clear. Like, he's one of the only running backs ever in fantasy that I didn't want to get more touches. Like, no, you had the exact perfect amount of touches for him before. Like, he does not need more touches. And like, why with this obsession with getting him more touches instead of trying to keep him as like an efficiency machine is very misguided to me. And yeah, I will bet on the supernatural force appearing in 17 games more than I'll bet on Devin Achane like appearing in 14 games, because I feel like no matter what, he's going to miss a few games. And Achane is not on my do not draft list. I feel like he got a little unlucky on the big play front last year. Like, he'll have more big plays this year.
He could have had more big plays. He's a big play specialist. So it's
he is, and he'll have more of those this year. So I'm still comfortable with Devin Achane, but I'm more comfortable with Shedeur.
I'm conflicted. I'm super conflicted just because I don't love the price tag, and I want a guy that's a little more proven. I want a Jonathan Taylor. I instead of an Achane. I'm very boomery in that way, where I'm like, if I'm gonna get a guy like Achane, I might as well wait and get Breece Hall or Chase Brown. Right? That to me is arbitrage on Achane, and also they're on better teams, and I just really want to limit. I'm trying to limit my exposure as much as possible to the Dolphins, because I think it's. But now with Waddle's a guy that I think I'm just going to be like, hey, he's the only guy on this team I'm drafting, and I'm just cool with it. That's
Waddle is like
it's like kind of like Downs. Like,
yes.
I'm not trying to be over-invested in this team, but I do want a lot of Downs. I'm not trying to be over-invested in Miami, but I do want Waddle.
Talk about a guy like on his last chance, Jalen Waddle. But Jalen Waddle is a very good pick this year. Like, you cannot quibble with the Waddle pick.
He's a very
it's an now
good
or never
player.
Season for him. He is a good player.
He's a very good player. He's won in all kinds of different ways. He's won with air yards. He's won with yards after the catch. He's very versatile. Top 10 pick. I didn't agree with him going top 10, but he proved himself that he's a good player and he belongs as a featured wide receiver in the league. Absolutely. And by the way, when you look at, we talked about Rome Odunze earlier. Rome Odunze was second in the league in unrealized air yards.
That's scans.
So if you are pushing the ball, if you are getting open down the field and you're making yourself available down the field, also Jalen Johnson, he's drafting Rome Odunze. So that's just so I because I was thinking about the statement you made earlier about, hey, there's no good wide receiver ADPs. I still consider Odunze a good wide receiver ADP. I consider Calvin Ridley a good wide receiver ADP. Josh Downs a good wide receiver ADP.
Even Waddle's a good receiver ADP.
And now I would say Waddle is. Yes, that's the conclusion there.
You're 100% right on Ridley, by the way. You were right. He's a good ADP. Like wide receiver 31. That a more reasonable Calvin Ridley ADP than we've seen some years.
Well, tale as old as time, man. Tales of his time. The guy that they love for all the wrong reasons went to Alabama, first round pick. His career year also happened to coincide with the leader in pass attempts that year was Matt Ryan. So when your quarterback leads the league in pass attempts and that's your career year in raw fantasy points, you need to just do one more year where that's not the case, where it's not completely volume driven for me to get behind you as a player. And this might be the year he does it. And this happens to be the year he's actually affordable instead of like being a third round pick every year. And it's like, man, I'm really going to be grabbing this tiger by the tail in the third round. No thanks, bro.
This time
get out of here. Now it's like every year, the fantasy community, the public decides to get like religion about a player. They finally decided to come to Jesus on Calvin Ridley and come to terms with the fact that he's not an alpha receiver. And it just so happens that this is the year where he kind of is set up to produce like one against all odds, and I'm here for it. Now, when you look at the environment in Los Angeles with the Chargers, it's pretty much a consensus that this is run first. Like this is Najee Harris, this is a Marion Hampton, Najee Harris. And in that context, you can still draft the number one wide receiver. Just like, again, the Jets are run first, but you want Garrett Wilson. Chargers are run first, but you want Ladd McConkey. Now the beat reporters are steaming up Gadsden and Trey Harris. I read that on none other than Rotoworld.
I did steam them.
So what's going on here? They're trying to pump up the passing game. Do you think that's real?
I have a hard time believing it's real, but I will say there's so much focus on improving the backfield by the fantasy community that Trey Harris, it's a legit draft capital. Oronde Gadsden is a 5th-round pick. We're talking way too much about Oronde Gadsden, obviously. But maybe it was a necessary corrective to at least get one report about the Chargers passing game. Don't forget they did draft a 2nd-round wide receiver. That is a thing that actually happened. Don't forget about that.
Who is a good player?
He is a good player, I think. I can't even remember what my Trey Harris opinion is. He was extremely efficient from what I remember. Extremely efficient.
And the fact that he can play outside enables them to move Ladd McConkey all over the place, which is exactly what you want.
And Justin Herbert is the ultimate attempts or quarterback stat. It's just hard to see. I don't think last year was representative of what this Harbaugh Chargers offense is going to be because it was much more pass heavy than expected. That's because even for Harbaugh, he wasn't going to keep banging J.K. Dobbins into a brick wall 20 times. It was not sustainable. It was not tenable. Even Harbaugh had to pull the plug on that. Or this year, he's got a better J.K. Dobbins than Najee Harris. Najee Harris, of course, not good at all. But he's a better J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, Marion Hampton, a 1st round. The running game, there's no outcome where the running game is not – where this offense isn't much more balanced and the running game is not featured more heavily. But he is an attempts or QB stat guy, blah, blah, blah. We are glossing over the fact that they did upgrade the passing game. But no, I think we're not going to see Alex Smith Harbaugh this year, but we're going to see more traditional Harbaugh, I would say, in 2025.
I think we'll see. I don't love to make fantasy decisions based on college football narratives from 3 years ago.
I know. But
don't love to do it.
So do from 49ers narratives from 12 years ago. That's
so true. That's so true. So, which is funny, though. It all comes full circle in that a big conversation we have is McCaffrey versus Herbert, and that Herbert is seasoned. Herbert technically has more upside. He's just basically a bigger, faster, stronger, bigger arm version of J.J. McCarthy.
That's actually a great comp.
And McCarthy was Harbaugh's former quarterback. And McCarthy is in a situation where he's going to light up the scoreboard every week with those weapons in that system. So it's just a fascinating, okay, so McCarthy in the right environment is going to be pass first. But really, Harbaugh's the problem. If Harbaugh's the coach, then Herbert becomes McCarthy. Right? It's just really you can really spin yourself into the ground here.
It's quite circular.
That's a circular one though. But who you got between those two, Herbert or McCarthy?
Man, can we get Herbert to the point where can we say he's a never again guy?
I'm fine with that as long as you're on board with McCarthy. I want to see some real McCarthy steam on Rotoworld. As soon as the coaches say something positive about him, I want you guys to really light him up.
That is the thing with McCarthy. Is that Denny keeps pointing out, the McCarthy stuff so far this offseason has been his receivers I don't know what you've heard about his arm, but what I've seen is fine. It's fine. It's good. Even it's good. We're hearing lots of damning with faint praise for his arm strength. Kind of is reading between the lines for the Vikings. What was the deal with the Rodgers thing? What was that? The Vikings can deny it all they want, but they never even fully denied it. Seriously, what was that? That was weird. You don't do that if you're all in on J.J. McCarthy. I just feel like there's some troubling J.J. McCarthy smoke signals that he's maybe not what they thought he was. And, now he's missed an entire year with a lower body injury. This is kind of interesting. This is kind of food for thought.
I love this. This is why we have different guests come on, man, because I have a position. We have a position at Player Profiler. You can check it out. It's right in our rankings. You can see where we have McCarthy ahead of Herbert. And we've flag planted on this. We flag planted on McCarthy, and this is the other side of the argument. And now the audience must decide for themselves. Right?
Lots of very smart people are really in a McCarthy. And again, when you're in a system, we can overrate the coach. We can overrate the system. When you're in a system that made Nick Mullins like fine for fantasy, like you didn't have to worry about starting Viking skill players with Nick Mullins when Kevin O'Connell was calling the plays, that is a very positive thing for JJ.
Can't believe I'm going to be saved by the offensive coordinator narrative with JJ McCarthy. That's the thing that's going to give me the cover I need to go so hard at him. I can't believe that's where we're at. I can't believe it. So, okay, Marion Hampton. Pick a week he is the starter, the named starter.
Najee Harris is like undead zombie, like to infinity. Like he's going to make it much harder than it needs to be. I'd say week 9 or 10.
Oh, God.
Najee, man, is going to grind this thing out. That's his specialty. He's going to grind this thing out as long as it takes. He will be overtaken, but he's going to grind it out. He's going to grind it out, man.
Oh, that really kind of like hurt my soul.
I mean, I've given up making Najee Harris predictions because, surely they're going to realize he's terrible at some point, and they just never do.
I can't believe you said that. I'm just really, wow. I think I need a moment. So I mentioned the rankings. Here's a little bit more info about those rankings. And then we'll have 10 burning questions with Pat Daugherty after that. People say, oh, there's so much free on Player Profiler. What's in the premium package? Well, it starts with the player rankings. We have the best process for ranking and projecting players, not just seasonal leagues, though. We're talking about tight end premium, specifically FFPC, best ball, specifically underdog, including their Superflex rankings. And then we have IDP rankings, Dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, Scott Fishbowl rankings, offensive line rankings by Dan Fornick, cornerback rankings throughout the season where you can see who's matched up with who. It's incredible. And think about who's contributed to our processes over time. Math majors, analytics powerhouses, plus you get the contributions from the real football guys. Billy Muzio, Dan Williamson, Bradley Stalder. That's why our rankings are the best. And if you want to upgrade and go all in, use promo code Underworld or your host promo code, and you get $25 off. 10 burning questions with Pat Daugherty. Here we go. How good can Jaden Daniels be this year?
I mean, tempting to think. What do you think the odds are his rookie year was his career year? I'd say not 0, but I don't know if I've ever seen like a guy.
Was Cam Newton's rookie year, was that his best year?
Probably. No, maybe the 15-1 year I think was probably statistically better.
Okay.
He had a really, really good year, the 15-1 year. But, I mean, Jaden Daniels, 4,000 and 1,000 is within reach. That'd be very, very hard, even for a special athlete like Jaden Daniels. But 4,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing is within reach for Jaden Daniels. And, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a player like more born for the moment. Like, maybe the calmest NFL player I've ever seen in my life. And like he did so much of it last year where there was kind of unnecessary hand holding from the Commander's staff. Like a lot of the year, they just weren't really cutting him as loose as it seemed like he could have been. I think he's the QB3 though. He's not Lamar. He's not Josh. But 4,001
you clearly have him ahead of Jalen Hurts because you still see Jalen Hurts going ahead of him.
I do have him clearly ahead of Jalen Hurts.
I think it's very clear. He was better than Jalen Hurts on a fantasy points per game basis last year. And then they add Deebo Samuel, and he's got a whole year of rapport and growth and development, whereas Jalen Hurts is a finished product. I think it's pretty clear to go. Jaden Daniels is kind of a smash in fantasy football.
He's got more confidence and just more ability as a passer than Jalen Hurts too.
That's the thing. As great as Jalen Hurts is, not great as a passer, especially to the boundary. That's just not a strength of his. Never was. Jaden Daniels, though, the guy's he's almost like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen all in one guy.
He is like cherry picking positive traits from all of his competition. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like an amalgam of all those guys. The best traits of all three of them. It's really cool. It's really I love them. So I think that's a fun stack to do too. That's not like a value stack. I guess the value stack would be Daniels and Deebo. That would be your value stack.
Deebo, man, I don't know.
You're out on Deebo. You don't like these older receivers. It seems like you're out on all of them.
Deebo is a guy. I'm not out on him because of the video where he looks big and slow. I'm out on him because I think the slashing usage, like he took so many more hits than your standard wide receiver is ever going to take.
Yes.
And I just think his legs are gone. It seems like his legs are gone, is my take on Deebo.
Okay.
Like, he took so many more hits. He took a career's worth of hits in like 2 or 3 years in San Francisco for some receivers.
And I should say this before we move on to the next question. I'm talking about Jaden Daniels as our QB3 on the site. Player Profiler, we're doing a flash sale. Flash sale alert, 4th of July. Right, so typically you don't do this with flash sales. The whole thing with a flash sale is you surprise everybody and say, "Oh, flash sale," and then they know, "Oh my God, I gotta go." Right, it's a surprise. It's a flash. So that we're dropping this show, we're streaming it early in the week. We're going to be dropping the podcast well before Friday. You all, and maybe if you listen to maybe every other podcast. Anyway, you're in the know. You're not going to be surprised when you see it posted on social media. There's a flash sale. You will already have known. You have already prepared. Probably already subscribed to Player Profiler. The all-in package is $50 off. $50 off the all-in package. It's typically $135. It's available for $85 only on 4th of July with promo code USA. Promo code USA. Now, does it matter who the quarterback is going to be in Cleveland?
No, because 2 weeks later, it will be someone else. So there's kind of like no point in even like developing opinion. Like, I just really hope it's Flacco. I really hope it's Kenny Pickett. I, for some reason, really hope it's Dylan Gabriel. Like, just 2 weeks later, it's going to be someone else. So there's no point in like getting set and like a take or a prediction there because it'll be useless a month after the fact.
Which is also the reason why there's no point in drafting Jerry Jeudy.
Which I've been trying to be brave on Jerry Jeudy. Like, listen, I don't care who's at quarterback. Someone at 1,300 yards cannot barely be going in the top 40. But no, you're right. You're just absolutely right.
Now, if you really want like washed out Alabama receivers that didn't quite deliver on their potential in the league, and I'm not talking about Henry Ruggs, by the way.
First ballot for Jerry Jeudy.
Right? You might as well go Calvin Ridley because he actually got a quarterback upgrade. There you can make a case for Calvin. It's similar ADP, too. And by the way, Darren Waller's coming out of retirement. Did you see this?
I did see this. I was wondering if I should get you off your game and bring it up.
It's a burning question. What's in the chat? The chat drives the show. You could follow us live on Twitter, on YouTube, and you can be part of the show as well. And also, if you're currently in the chat, if you're currently watching this, or if you're watching this at a later time, like it. Go ahead and like it. Let people that are fantasy fans around the world, let them know that you like it, and that'll make sure they get the show as well. If you're getting the podcast, share it with a buddy. There's a little share button on your podcatcher. Go ahead and just hit that copy button, pull up your text messages, and send it to one friend, one family member, whatever it is. Maybe your cousin that is joining his first fantasy league, right? Do that. Send him the show. They'll love it. I think it's very appropriate. We don't, I don't think we didn't go into anything inappropriate. Try not to. That's not what. See, that's not what Pat and I do. Pat and I, we go way out there with history, segues, and now movies, pop culture. But we don't get into the some of the stuff that some of my other guests get into, where it's a little more not for kids. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about?
What were you talking about?
Oh, yes. Darren Waller. Oh, my God. We're in the chat. Darren Waller's in the chat. Henry Ruggs is, getting released at some point. So who do you think will have more career yards from here onward? Ruggs or Waller?
Waller, because he'll get at least 1 yard. And Ruggs, I feel like the league is not in a moment where it's giving guys like Henry Ruggs like a second chance. It seems like, and two, I think they'll convince themselves it's for football reasons, not just the moral reasons. Away from the game too long, blah blah blah. I do think Waller is actually going to play again. I'm not convinced Henry Ruggs will ever play again.
Well, he's younger than Travis Kelce, and he had and has had in his career personal demons that he had to slay and come back to football. And so I think that there's probably a lot of factors, a multitude of factors that led to him coming back, which leads me to wanting to give Darren Waller the benefit of the doubt.
I got a text from our mutual friend Kyle Dvorak during this podcast that said this move is, quote, the last thing you see before announcing Darrell Bevell as your interim head coach. That the Dolphins they're cooked. They're done. It's whatever.
They're bringing in Waller. I would say for Waller, Miami not the best place to go.
No.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Not that there was I wasn't thinking of good places for Darren Waller to go, though. Wasn't something I was thinking about at all.
I'm just saying for his life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for his ability to stay focused on football, Miami not the best place to go, right?
He was in New York City before.
Right. So. I think he should go to Indianapolis or somewhere like that.
He needs to go to the
interior. Go to
Indianapolis.
I mean, they have Tyler Warren. I know that. I'm just saying, he would be better off probably going to a smaller place, being the backup. But now with the pressure, where could he go? He could go to Denver or something. That would be a better spot for him. But regardless, I mean, you have a place like Miami that's had didn't they have a bath salt sort of problem?
Maybe. You don't hear about bath salts too much these days.
There was rampant bath salt overdosing. That was one of those crazy Miami trends where you saw guys going crazy on bath salts. Just not something you see in most cities.
No.
There's just some crazy part. You have guys that go to Miami for a Super Bowl and don't show up at the game.
Yes,
that's also a thing that's happened in the past. So I'm just saying, probably not the best city to go to. Where one of their coaches was fired for being filmed doing cocaine off the desk.
That's right. That was within living memory. That was within the past.
That's in the football building.
Yeah.
So you think, oh well, they're there with the team, they're protected, right? Not in Miami, man. There's no barrier.
No.
Okay. It's an epidemic, a bath salt epidemic in Miami. It was like a 2-month period. Anyway, speaking of bad situations for football players, the Giants, I think Russell Wilson's days are already numbered.
Yes.
Okay. It's fun. It's fun that there's now no commitment to the starter anymore, that it's Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, and we'll see what happens. So, okay, just give me your projected number of games started for each of the 3 quarterbacks in New York.
7 for Russell Wilson feels right. Let's see here. 8 for Jackson Dart. 8 of the worst starts you've ever seen. And then somehow 2 for Jameis. He could get traded or cut, I feel like. But Jameis is where there's a will, there's a way. There's always going to somehow be a will to get Jameis Winston 2 starts. A supernatural force to get Jameis 2 starts. I'm saying 7, 8, and 2.
The last 7 games are going to be started by Jackson Dart. The last 7
games.
No,
here's the deal, though. Dart will get hurt at some point, though. His 8 games will be non-consecutive.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what we'll do is, there will be 7 games for Dart, but I'm going 5 and 5. 5 for Wilson, 5 for Winston. So then you get the first 5 games for Wilson, 2 for Winston. Yes. Then you got 7 for Dart. He gets hurt. The last 3 are Winston, and it actually helps people win fantasy championships.
They acquire Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, God. Here we go. Here we go. And yet, knowing this, I'm still drafting Neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a better quarterback play than last year, I think. Even with Dart, maybe.
It's crazy.
Maybe not Dart.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
Yeah, you're drafting Neighbors anyway. You can't get me off him. So okay. If you're not allowed to say a New York team, which team do you believe is most likely to implode by week 5?
I think so. The Colts are very high on my list. Where I just think this is a Colts franchise that wants a fresh start, needs a fresh start. Like everything with this era went wrong. The former owner held on to the GM for way too long. The quarterback plan is just awful. Like what's the strength of this roster? When you look at the Indianapolis Colts roster, like what is the strength? Where I feel like this is an organization that's very much wants to move on to a new era of Colts football. And basically you won't have to ask them twice to NFL teams don't do like what baseball teams. They don't blow it up mid-season. But you're not going to have to ask them twice to get into 2026 mode. The Colts are an implosion waiting, and the Dolphins are the other one. 2 teams we've already talked about.
Thank you for saying the Dolphins, because that's my pick.
Like this, McDaniel, there's a very heavy air that they should have just fired him last year.
It's in the air, man.
It is just in the air that
it's in the air. I don't think he wants it anymore. I don't think. No. I think that he has realized that front office has not set him up for success.
Terrible front office, tethered to just not a good quarterback situation. Where not even necessarily a bad quarterback, but the situation where the offense has to revolve around him not getting hit. Like, you're not set up for success as an offensive coordinator.
I don't think McDaniel wants to go to work when he wakes up in the morning.
That's actually a bit true. This guy, just get him on TV. Get him on TV.
Yeah. I know. I think he wants to go somewhere. He wants to have a fresh start. He will be, too. They will hire him again. He will get another job. We've seen this. He will get another job. You betcha. I mean, he might have to do a little bit of time as an offensive coordinator for half the season.
Kingsbury trajectory.
Somewhere. But, he's going to be back. So we talked about these running backs in the second round. I think the only one we didn't talk about was Bucky Irving. And Bucky Irving is interesting. He's not a guy I can fade like Achane because the team he's on has a great schedule, especially in the fantasy playoffs. And for all the reasons people are just bullish on the Buccaneers, I'm specifically bullish on Bucky Irving because in those last 5 games of the season where it's just pushover defense, shred fest. Then they play the Panthers. It's like, oh my God, right? That's ideal for the running back. It's not. It's almost a fake good schedule for the passing game, but it's a great schedule for Bucky Irving. And for that reason, it's like we talked about being humble. I still like Rachaad White. I think that Bucky Irving's being a little overdrafted in the late second round, but I want some exposure. and I because that is a delicious schedule for him, and he continues to bulk up. He continues to be one of the hardest working running backs in the league in the offseason. He has a complete all-purpose skill set. You can't fade all these satellite back plus guys. And I think he's actually a pass catcher. Unlike Kyron Williams, unlike James Cook, or putting up 35 receptions, like fake satellite backs, he at least is real. Pay a little bit of a premium for him, for the schedule, for the skill set, for everything. The offseason narratives around him and his work ethic. I mean, it's all coming to a head, but again, I'm in. I'm gonna pay. I'm gonna pay for him, and I don't love it, but I can't fade the entire team. So I got to be in on someone. It's going to be Bucky.
I feel like it's hard to be too high on Bucky. Like, I think he's one guy where I feel like you can just keep going higher and higher. Where basically, what test did he not pass as a rookie?
So good.
200 carries, I think 47 catches. He did all this while he had a legit touch competition. But he started taking a bigger and bigger slice of the pie for himself at the end of last season. He handled 20 carries several
this
times.
wasn't a Tyrone Tracy situation where he's relegating Devin Singletary.
No. Yeah, it was legit touch competition. These were the biggest games of the year, too, where he really took over. I mean, Bucky, honestly, he has the kind of skill set of a guy who could be a fantasy legend. He's got, what is he missing, really?
I like him.
He's got
I like it,
amazing,
because I was thinking about who can I fade and not get burned, and I was like, man, you can't fade Bucky, man.
No.
That's way too dangerous. And then I'm like, wait a second, if it's that dangerous, hold on, this is an internal Podfather conversation. Hold on a second, if it's that dangerous to fade him, then maybe you need to be buying him. Oh my God. Imagine that.
It's also final year Rachaad White's deal. They could just be mentally moving on. We'll see.
They are. I think Rachaad White's interesting. I think there's, in the Rabbit draft, I was in round 15, and I was between Rachaad White, Roschon Johnson, and J.K. Dobbins. And my head wanted Rachaad White just for the receptions. My heart wanted Roschon, and I ended up going J.K. Dobbins.
Was that your liver wanted that one?
Because I was like, oh man, I'm just trying to do this. I'm trying to do this hyper humble approach, as we talked about, where I'm like, yes, I've invested so much personal reputational capital into RJ Harvey, but that doesn't mean that if I don't have RJ Harvey, I can't draft J.K. Dobbins. I think objectively, he's a very interesting player, especially if he wasn't 100% last year. If he did what he did last year at less than 100%, then if he's going to be running this year without a hitch in his gait, and it's a pretty nice setup for him in Denver to be in the 15th round of the Rabbit and not draft him, I just thought that was it was too easy. Because as the season goes along, the off season goes along, fantasy draft season, you get into July and then into August. A guy like J.K. Dobbins is a classic player where the ADP just creeps all summer.
Yes.
Creeps up.
Yes. It is. And Dobbins, I'm going to let other people take the plunge on that one.
So who are you going there? You going Rachaad White? You going Roschon? Who are you picking there?
I would go Rachaad White in that group for sure. Where it just seems like, talk about where there's a will, there's a way. It seems like for Rachaad White to catch 50 passes, they target their running backs just like a stunning amount in that offense. I guess the receiver core is deeper this year. Maybe they won't have to do that as much. But
God, I should have gone Rachaad White. God,
it doesn't.
Go with
it
the
won't
head,
matter.
man. What about Roschon? Roschon's like my favorite handcuff back, like a proper handcuff. I love Roschon. Because again, if we're talking about this Bears offense taking a leap.
Roshan, the existence of Roshan to me is more like a message, just take your medicine on DeAndre Swift. Because Roshan, for as not good as DeAndre Swift is, Roshan is even more not good. It's kind of, and I have a very hard time believing they're going to let themselves default into an important Roshan Johnson role. Stranger things have happened, though. He could be their Demont, I guess. But man, it seems like a cry for DeAndre Swift help. Is Roshan.
We'll see.
It's a terrible backfield. It's
I do
utterly
think Roshan
atrocious.
Johnson has a lot of David Montgomery traits. I do think that.
He does. And it could maybe even a David Montgomery career arc, I guess.
So I would be careful just dismissing him. He has size, he has pass catching ability, he has that work ethic, that Bucky Irving level work ethic. There's a lot going for him, but I understand what you're saying. That it's just there's not a lot of explosiveness with Roshan. That's the one thing he's missing. But we've seen plenty of running backs where they didn't have the explosiveness, but they had everything else: the vision, the all-purpose skill set. So that's what I'm going. And especially his ADP. I mean, again, we're talking about J.K. Dobbins. We're talking about broken players. We're talking about trash heap type players. By the time you get to Roshan Johnson, and that's probably why I didn't draft him. I was like, man, he's just not. He's not quite at a place where you could even draft him in this particular format. It's kind of crazy. You just don't know what his opportunity share is going to look like in week 1, week 2. If DeAndre Swift isn't bad, then that's just going to keep getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Any increase in opportunity share where Rachaad White, and if he makes the team, J.K. Dobbins. The nice thing about J.K. Dobbins, he just needs to make the team. If he makes the team, he's going to get plenty of touches. I mean, no problem.
I think the amount of guaranteed money he got was enough to suggest – it wasn't like going to bowl you over, but it was enough to suggest he'll make the team, J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah. So we talked about how ridiculous wide receiver ADPs are, and my whole game from that point forward was try to find some that you would consider reasonable. We found like 3 or 4 at least.
We did, more than I was expecting.
Yeah. Waddle, Ridley, etc. Now, who are some of the receivers that were the most egregious, where their ADPs are just laughable?
Listen, I'll say only in summer best ball drafting season. Do you remember what Rashee Rice's ADP was last summer? I feel like it was not wide receiver 12. This is where I'm going with that. Where Rashee Rice,
8th round.
How was his ADP risen after suffering, this devastating knee injury? The rookie first rounder actually did come on at the end of the year. Marquise Brown is back and healthier, and all this added up to like a higher ADP for Rashee Rice. I could be misremembering this. I can't quite remember what his ADP was. I feel like it was more like wide receiver 14 or 15, and he's up to like wide receiver 11 and 12. This seems a bit stunning to me on Rashee Rice. That
after the emergence of Xavier Worthy, if you're in on Xavier Worthy, and I'm in on Travis Kelce. Like, this is the year for Kelce. And, again, so many years I didn't have any Ridley, now I do. So many years I had no Kelce, now I do. Happy to do it. Happy to gobble it up. One of these two guys, Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy, is going to have an ADP that's an embarrassment looking back on.
Yes.
We just don't know which one it is. Just like we knew there was going to be at least one, maybe 2 Texans with ridiculous ADPs last year, and turns out there were 2. One really was due to injury, and that was Stephon Diggs, because Tank Dell wasn't delivering even before the injury.
No.
But Diggs was, actually. Diggs, another one where the ADP is not that bad. If he's going to be the number 1 option for Drake May, that's another value stack that you have to respect.
Denny's trying to talk that one up.
Good. Denny.
Is there a more ridiculous ADP than Marvin Harrison Jr. as the wide receiver 14? Like truly, what is this based on?
It's based on absolutely nothing, and we didn't talk about this before the show. Can we just want to make sure everyone knows we did not talk about this, because I don't want to. This could be trademarked. Matthew Berry might have trademarked this, so I want to make sure I don't. I don't want to do this to Matthew Berry because he invented a great concept here. I don't want to borrow it, but I hate Marvin Harrison. Oh God, I can't. What? Yes, I understand that the air yards are there, and that's the same argument I used for Rome Odunze. But Rome Odunze's not going where Marvin Harrison's going. We're talking about a 3rd-round pick versus a 5th-round pick. And Caleb Williams projects to be a better thrower of footballs this year than Kyler Murray. We know exactly what Kyler Murray is. We know exactly what this offense is. We know exactly what their coaching staff is. And I don't exactly know what Marvin Harrison Jr. is. I was impressed with his ability to get downfield. I was very unimpressed with his ability to squeeze the football in contested situations. He actually scored more touchdowns than he probably should have. So we're talking about a guy with an inordinate touchdown rate who was highly inefficient. But he does have that trait that we like, which is he does command targets down the field. I just have to default back to what were his fantasy points per game and what has changed. And the answer is nothing. And so now you're just drafting him based on hopium and last year's draft capital, and I always fade those guys. And it rarely hurts me.
Well, Kyler doesn't even like to throw down the field. And the one thing that has changed is that he got bigger and slower. Like, there's no way he's faster with how big he's gotten. Like, he didn't strike me as someone who needed to get slower as a rookie, Marvin Harrison Jr.
He's going in that Brandon Marshall direction, but that's not today's NFL. No. And that's not the strength of Kyler Murray. He doesn't have Jay Cutler. It doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't. I mean, even with an Aaron Rodgers, someone that likes to throw the back shoulder, you could see that there's something, but nothing has changed. It's still Kyler. It's still a bad fit. It's never going to work. It's never going to work to a place where people are really happy and they're feeling like this helped me win my league by getting Marvin Harrison at this ADP.
No.
There's no way. It's not
Truly
possible.
No way. No.
You're so much better off waiting a couple rounds and going Odunze. It's the same. It's essentially the same bet, but at least with Odunze, you have a new coaching staff and you have a quarterback that's a great candidate to take a leap forward, and he's 2 rounds cheaper. So I mean, there's just some very easy arbitrage pivots from one wide receiver to another wide receiver, and I think that pivot from why draft Harrison, where Odunze, depending on the format, is at least a round later. And the upside is similar. The upside's actually more. I think there's higher upside and, probably a similar floor with those two guys. For me, Mike Evans' ADP is ridiculous. It's as if last year he didn't show all these signs of slowing down, and it's just like, we know they're going to carry him to 1,000 yards. And it's like, okay, what's 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns? Like, that's not what you're looking for at that ADP.
It's Calvin Ridley, but you're getting 12 receivers later.
Okay, I don't need to talk. You're just going to say exactly, wow, that was such an amazing mind meld. That might have been the mind meld of my lifetime on this show. That was incredible. Wow. Maybe Cortland Sutton too, right? Cortland Sutton might have more juice with a similar skill set, and he's in a situation where he's more clearly the number one option. Anyway, the Mike Evans ADP is silly to me. And the one that's just a sort of a math-based ADP on a player I like, but just the math doesn't add up, is Zay Flowers.
I agree. Zay is a weird one.
It's just, I like him, but in that offense,
he's been on an upward trajectory. There's still not a ton of target competition.
It's just, what are you trying to gain with the upside here? This is clearly a Lamar, Derrick Henry offense. Why are we trying to make Zay Flowers a thing at that particular ADP?
It's a Lamar, Derrick Henry offense, and also one where the big plays go to Rashad Bateman or to Isaiah Likely too, basically, where he has to rely on PPR compiling, and that's just not a reliable enough feature in this offense.
Okay, I'm going to pull up the fast draft ADP for the Rabbit. Okay, and spoiler alert, there's some pretty good ADPs with the Rabbit. If you don't like the ADPs with other best ball contests with wide receivers, I think you're going to like the Rabbit ADPs. So when we look at the current ADPs here, okay, look at where Zay Flowers is. Now look at who's below him. Jawan Jennings, Chris Olave, Waddle, and Adunze. It's almost like I drew this up before knowing what your answers were, this ADP. This is the real ADP. Jawan Jennings, he's in an incredible situation in San Francisco. Chris Olave, he's going to get a hell of a lot more pass attempts in New Orleans, and he has downfield juice. He's like 1,800 air yards one year. So, I mean, Waddle and Flowers, I think, are about equivalent. And then Rome Odunze's got more upside.
Flowers is floor-based for sure.
I don't like floor-based wide receiver picks at that particular point in the draft.
No, not at that particular time.
I'm not doing that, man. There's plenty of upside there. A few rounds later, then fine. Like who's he got? Like, okay, Josh Downs. Like that's a floor. That's good, right? That's fine, right? I'm happy to do it. Another floor, but Michael Pittman. I guess all these guys are. Cooper Kupp. These are fine. But in best ball, you want to just lock in a guy is getting targets like Cooper Kupp. Yeah, at pick 107.
So yeah,
that's absolutely fine.
How even big is the difference between what's Zay? Gosh, what is he? He's the wide receiver. Zay is the wide receiver 30, and like Khalil Shakir is the wide receiver 44. Like, aren't they like almost identical projections? Like, it's just kind of crazy. Maybe they're not identical projections. I don't know.
Well, I love how we're aligning these players into these arbitrage binary decisions. Like, you don't need Mike Evans because you can get Cortland Sutton and Calvin Ridley. You don't need Zay Flowers. You can just draft Khalil Shakir. There's similar players with, similar roles. You could even say, similar, that you have quarterbacks that are pulling pass attempts out of the offense to run. But with Josh Allen, you're getting a much bigger, better arm than you are with Lamar Jackson. So in a lot of ways, yeah, these are superior picks. 1 or 2 rounds later, that's what we're here for, man. And I think that's all of my burning. That's all of my burning questions, because we had one more question about J.J. McCarthy, but we answered it earlier.
So we covered a lot of territory that you unintentionally that you meant to cover later.
I feel like I need to get you out of here. You're a very busy man. You're basically managing all fantasy affairs really at Rotoworld. It all runs through you. You're the editor-in-chief of the fantasy content, but you're also a writer and you're creating. I mean, you're just, again, I'm truly, truly, a lot of gratitude here that you came on the show.
Well, right. Always a lot of gratitude for having me. We've been doing this like 10 years. How long have we been doing this? Maybe
over long time, man. You're on the top of my list every year of people I want to have on the show. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But again, very thankful. Get you out of here. Bold prediction. Let's go.
The bold prediction is always I never have any bold predictions. I can't think that way.
Okay.
Let me pull up one. Let me come up with one on the spot. I think
I want to put you on the spot, like you said, and I want you just to grind this out and just know that this is something you have to do to end the show, and you have to give us fucking something.
Bold prediction. God, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Oh my God. This was such a good show, especially people that just love the Mind of Mansion, and they like how we go down these roads that sometimes are non-football related, and we get distracted and then we pull it back into football talk. This is going to be a guaranteed favorite show of the year for a lot of people, and and it really was fast
Until then.
paced. We've really been just going rat-a-tat-tat for 2 hours. And then to just grind it all to a halt the way you are with this. I mean, it really is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed.
Define bold prediction. My big worry is that JJ McCarthy is a mega bust. Does that count? The track record for guys who miss their entire rookie year with injury is very grim. Very grim. Even if it's a minor injury or whatever, it's pretty checkered history. I don't like the comments coming out of Vikings camp. I don't like the dalliance with Aaron Rodgers, who is so absurdly washed, both in mind, body, and spirit. And they still could not rule out signing him for 3 months. I worry about our guy, JJ.
So you officially, your bold prediction is that JJ McCarthy will be a mega bust.
Yeah, unfortunately. I didn't want to go there because it's probably going to be wrong. KOC, I know you've preached a lot over the years. The cult of the coach can be very overrated. It's not good to just go all in on the coach. KOC is one coach you should probably go all in on. But I just don't like the early JJ McCarthy signs and signals, I'll say. I'm worried about them. Another bold prediction is that Bucky Irving could finish as the RB1 overall.
I like that one. Let's stick with that one.
I think that's within his range of outcomes, is RB1 overall for Bucky Irving.
I still hate you for what you said about JJ McCarthy.
It's going to be wrong, so it's fine. It'll be easily clipped and thrown back in my face because it's not a good take. It's all vibes and gut based. And also because I didn't like watching him play at Michigan. But so it's dead wrong. It's just dead wrong. But
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.